Nor am I. Good morning, and on behalf of Business Isle of Man, it's a real pleasure to add my welcome to say how delighted we are to be hosting the Interceltic Business Forum here on the Isle of Man. I wanted to give you just a little bit of context and just a little bit about the journey of how we got here today. For more than 40 years, the island's been represented at the Festival Interceltique de Lorient, the biggest festival in the world celebrating Celtic culture. It attracts almost 1 million visitors. Yeah, 1 million. Absolutely incredible. The Grand Parade attracts more than 90,000 spectators. Can you imagine our Isle of Man musicians and dancers performing to a crowd larger than our population? It is incredible. So alongside the Interceltic Business Forum, the Interceltic Festival runs the forum. It takes over one day and runs alongside. And here we see those ties between the economic and the cultural come together, where those communities build relationships. So I was invited to the forum in Lorient in 2024 to attend. So for 40 years we had had the cultural representation, but perhaps not the economic. So it was an opportunity to go, to explore, and to find out more. And the value there was evident in just the connections that I built over one day at the forum. So the next year I was challenged to go big. Look at how we could develop those relationships. So we took 5 businesses, Isle of Man businesses, with us to really understand whether they saw value in it. So we travelled to Lorient to attend the forum, and actually what the businesses found there was this unique forum within the setting of a festival where the culture and business interweave. So the business doesn't stay just in the forum, it spills out into the festival itself. Our cultural identity is not just something that we celebrate. It is part of our identity, our international profile, and it has a real economic impact. It was really interesting to see how the businesses related, not just within the forum, but actually out as well. So we went and we celebrated, we watched the parade together, we cheered on each other's musicians and dancers. So that cultural aspect brought in a lot of conversations that carried on throughout that day, the evening, the next day, as we went to go and visit the pavilions where all the Celtic nations get to present their offerings and the best of what they have to share, both culturally and economically. So those businesses turned up, they made meaningful connections, had serious follow-up conversations, and came home with opportunities and ideas that they could act on. Over the last 2 years, this relationship has built. And a lot of the conversations have been about bringing those conversations to the Isle of Man. So we've partnered with the Interceltic Business Forum, and here we are today. This is a result built on the momentum of building relationships and real connections, built on our cultural roots, and focused on practical collaboration. So bringing the Interceltic Business Forum here has been a deliberate choice. It reflects on our beliefs that the Celtic nations and regions are stronger when we work together, economically, culturally, and strategically. We share common challenges around productivity, sustainability, skills, investment, international competitiveness, but we share a deep well of innovation, entrepreneurship, and ambition. So today, hosting you here is about creating a space for shared conversations. Not just to talk about the challenges, but to identify real opportunities for collaboration, trade, investment, joint working. So, here's the question. What would we love from everyone in the room here today? Be curious and generous. Share your experiences openly. What's worked, what hasn't, and where you may collaborate and add value. Secondly, make new connections. Make them deliberately. Okay, so this brings me to a small challenge for you today. I would ask each of you on your tables just to take 3 minutes. Introduce yourself on the table. Find one connection or similarity that you share. It may be a sector, a challenge, a market, a parallel experience. I think you'll be surprised at how quickly that common ground appears. You have 3 minutes starting now. So thank you. That sounds like there's been some really good conversations in the room already. So my challenge to you today is at every break, speak to somebody you don't already know. Be brave, have fun, move seats, change conversations, seek out different perspectives. Because the real value in a conference of this form happens between the sessions, over coffee, in the conversations you didn't plan to have. We would love for you today to end up with something tangible, maybe a new contact to follow up on, an idea to test or develop, a potential collaboration, a fresh perspective that you can take back to your organisation or region. So once again, welcome to the Isle of Man. We are delighted to have you here, and we hope you enjoyed the discussions and the connections that you'll make today. And we look forward to seeing where those connections take us in the months and years ahead. Goromayu, thank you, and I wish you just an incredible day of really interesting and inspiring conversations. So I have the great pleasure now to introduce you and hand you over to our host, Charles Kagaravat, founder of the Interceltic Business Forum. Charles, will you come and join me up on the stage?
Moramai de Matanol. Merci. Hello, everybody. Can you guys keep a secret? Yes? You guys are awesome at keeping a secret. It's called the Isle of Man. Look at this place. Look what I've seen so far. Quite amazed. And it is my first time on the island. And what I've heard a lot from people who are traveling, this is their first time on the island. And they had no expectation to come first time here for a business conference. So we're already doing something quite amazing. I'm quite excited about this because I'd say when we started this out years ago, this is edition number 9. So a special number 9. The first one we ever did was 2016. And I did get a question last night. What are we doing here? Why are we doing this? What is the Interceltic Business Forum? And it's something that when people become part of it, they want to share with others. But what is that origin? Where does that come? And it comes from me very simply. A lot of business people here, and you've probably happened to you too, I've gone to a lot of business conferences, and they're a total waste of my time. You know, maybe the little things that at the end you eat them and they're fancy and stuff, but that's not why you're going to a business conference. And fundamentally, the festival was mentioned before, 800,000 people, 10 days, and by chance, I would run into a founder that I didn't know from Ireland, from Scotland, and we would have a great conversation, but it was all luck. And being a Celt with parents from Brittany that had to move away from home to make their life in New York City, I got to go to some of the most amazing conferences, business conferences in the world, like South by Southwest, which does an amazing job at bringing culture and economy together. And I said, I didn't want to leave this to chance. We need to organize an event with Celtic people who are, I would say, quite proud, who have amazing things like their Celtic languages, who have innovation, and we got to get them in the room. And the first time I had to lock the door so no one would leave. Now people come and go, and that's awesome. And we've created something quite special because we kind of need each other. Maybe the expectation before was we're quite focused on London. quite focus on Paris or San Francisco, but have you guys been following geopolitics? I want to say like diplomacy or lack thereof of geopolitics. I think it's safe to say that we're kind of lost at sea. And what if we can write the course together? We would find the right course. And maybe for us, these Celtic nations, that course is happening in the Celtic Sea, in the Irish Sea. But we just need to give ourselves the opportunity to do that. So that's why this is important. There'll be a lot of other business conferences this year, but none like this. So all of you are quite important for making this happen. And I would say write this course together. How did we get to the Isle of Man? How did that happen? It's really funny. When I started this, again, this is not my job. I do this kind of at late at night, so that's why the emails arrive in your mailbox at like 10, because I do this after work. And I said, we got to represent all the Celtic nations. And being a New Yorker, most Celts are modest, right? They don't try to talk about themselves too much. Maybe the Irish talk a little bit about themselves a lot, but the rest of us are modest, right? And that's a good thing and a bad thing, because we don't get to hear these awesome stories of founders and businesses doing these great things, because we're talking about the startup from London or Paris, and not the one from the Isle of Man, Brittany, or Ireland. So I kind of would put Isle of Man in there, in the briefs, in the website and everything. And I'm like, I don't know anybody from the Isle of Man. And I want them to be part of this. And the internet being the internet, some guy on Twitter was like, why is the Isle of Man not at this event? And I'm like, hey man, I want you to be at the event. You do something about this. So I don't know where Simon is right here. I can't see much from here. There you are, Simon. So he was on Twitter, and I was like, hey, great, let's do something about this. And then there was kind of this snowball effect. There were probably more tweets and more emails and stuff. And then you run into the right people. And the right people get other people involved. And I would say, this is edition number 9. One of my favorite panels was an all-woman panel about the Isle of Man and how this is a special place because of its biosphere, UNESCO biosphere. And what we try to do is inspire others. And I would say that day, the Isle of Man inspired all the others and said, gosh, how did these little guys do this? We need to think about this. And this is what the forum is about. One person leads to another person that helps another person, and then gets picked up by, people that they do this all day. So I'm super excited to have, obviously, Business Isle of Man being a main driver of this. And Carrie came the first year, and I remember at first we talked, she's like, hi, and you're like, you're Charles. And yeah, it's me. And now we're here today, and we're sharing the stage together. And we want to talk about the little guy, right? We've had great people last year. I think of Brendan, raise your hand, Chris, companies like SQR. Where is SQR? That's the type of company we want every single person in all the Celtic nations and out to know about. So that's what we're doing here at the forum, okay? So you're like, this sounds pretty cool, man. I'm happy I came to this. What's your job now? If you've come here today with your standard MO cap of, hey, I'm going to do some networking, I'm going to give my business card, what can this person do for me? You came to the wrong place, because the people that get the most value out of this are the ones saying, hey, how can I help you? Weird concept, but we've been doing this for 9 editions, and maybe there'll be more, but you keep doing that, and you keep finding success. So is everybody with me on this? That sounds good.